Today I'm up on Red Lake, and you know what? This is one of the best destinations you can go for ice fishing, but it gets overlooked in the spring, and let me tell you something, it's absolutely dynamite at this time of the year. Stay right where you're at. I'm going to show you exactly how to catch them this week on Fish Head. They're sitting right on the edge, and you know, there are a lot of boats out here doing a lot of different things today, but most everything that everybody's doing entails going slow. I've seen guys jigging, I've seen guys rigging, I've seen all kinds of things going on. None of them are doing what we're doing with crankbaits. And it's because most people don't think we're at that time of the year where you should be doing that yet. Here's the thing. The water temps have finally hit about 60 degrees, and the fish are still up in here because there's minnows in here. Now, with that being the case, what happens is they get aggressive. So while everybody's out here jigging a minnow, thinking about when those temps were in the low 50s, it makes a big difference. When all of a sudden you hit that 60-degree mark, those fish haven't left yet, and they're all aggressive. And that's why I'm pulling crankbaits, and that's why these fish are coming up and hitting it. Now, the other thing that I'm able to do with a crank is I'm able to cover a lot of ground. And that's really important because I'll tell you what, you can see I'm just fishing a long, expansive shoreline today. And with that comes this. The fish are not exactly just piled up in one little spot or another little spot as we go. They're actually all over. And they're scattered at this time of year. That's a perfect 16.5-inch eater right there. They're scattered right now. And when they're scattered like this, what you want to do is you got to cover some ground to get to them. So I was watching some of these guys when we were down on that end when we first started this pass, and I'm watching them jigging away and Lindy rigging away, and I'm thinking to myself, you know what, they may have to go a long ways in between fish, where at 2.1 to 2.4 miles an hour with these crankbaits, I'm getting to the active ones, I'm getting them to jump, move, and bite, and number two, I'm getting to more fish fast. So keep that in mind. Don't feel just because it's spring and chillier water that you have to do everything slow. A lot of times speed up, throw the crankbaits out, and you'll start catching them. Right on that turn, he just smacked that thing, and it was again right when I'm coming off the edge. Let me explain to you what we're actually fishing here, because just a couple weeks ago when these fish were spawning, it's actually a little more than a couple weeks now, it's about 3 weeks, these fish were scattered out all over the flat part of this thing. Okay, I'm just gonna hoist this guy in. That's another great eater walleye. Look at that, one after another. But these fish, when they were just scattered out all over, it was a lot easier fishing. Okay, I'm talking back around the opener. Well, what's changed now is these fish are starting to stage to move, okay? That urge to spawn is done, and they're starting to think about eating. Boy, at the rate we're getting them, I tell you what, there's a lot of them in one little area, but it's not one little area that's really tight. It's one little area that's miles and miles long. Let me throw this guy in the live well and explain it. When those fish were spawning, they were scattered out all over along this shoreline, okay? What they've done now is they've moved out to the first sharp break, and that's where they're sitting. And they're sitting there because that's where the bait is now staged. So what I'm actually doing is just driving my boat like this. So what you need to do is look for those areas where those fish spawned, okay? And I don't care what body of water you're on right now, there are fish shallow, okay? If you put yourself in a position where you look for the areas where the fish spawned and then find that first break. Now here on Red Lake, this is an awfully shallow overall lake. So that first break is at about 5 feet. And when it comes down, then all of a sudden the break lines get a lot wider. They're sharper on that break. That's why you want to fish there. All I'm doing is driving back and forth and pulling my crankbaits back and forth. And we'll show you on the graph. It's one big squiggly line. And what that's done is made it so I keep bringing it over the top of the fish and I'm drawing that reaction. I'm getting them to race up. Most of these bites are coming either when I come off of that 5-foot ledge or when I'm going onto that 5-foot ledge. So don't be scared of doing that. If I were just going straight down that ledge, I gotta tell you something, I probably wouldn't catch as many fish, and here's why. The boat's going over those fish long before the line gets there all the time. But when you're going like this, you're getting fish that are out here or out there when I'm going in, and they'll come racing over to grab it. So keep that in mind. Work your way back and forth along a break, and you'll catch more fish than just going straight down it all the time. We have gone through like 3 different weather changes, but when these guys start biting, it usually means the bite's gonna turn back on. Oh yeah, this one's a little bit better. I'm gonna have to get this boat turned. You know, what's really fun about fishing a spot like this, the way we're fishing it, is you'll catch fish of all sizes along an edge like this because they all relate to it when the bait's here. And this one actually feels like the best one I've had all day. Oh yeah, that's a good walleye right there. You know, the lure I'm using today makes such a huge difference too, because what we're trying to do today is target a certain depth and stay there. Oh geez, get the him in. Everything's a little tougher alone sometimes, you know, but I'm trying to target that depth where what I'm able to do is stay back and forth and on top of it. And I don't want to bang too hard with my lure, but at the same time too, I want to make sure I'm down there. So what I'm doing today is I'm running a number 5 Lindy Shadling. And I'll show you this lure as soon as I get this fish unhooked. Boy, that was close to losing him. That is the perfect size red lake eater right there. We'll measure him up to make sure, but I think he's exactly what we're looking for. You bet he is. He'll go home and eat. Here's what makes the Shadling the perfect lure for what I'm doing though. With 60 feet of line out, this thing dives about 5 feet on the button, maybe even just a little bit more. So what's happening is I'm able to go up and down this thing, and I'm able to make sure that as soon as I come into that strike zone, I'm right there where the fish are with the lure. Then when I slide out over deeper water, where you got a better chance of those fish coming off this ledge and suspending, I'm still in the right zone, okay? Now, here's the other thing. When you're trolling crankbaits in the spring, what you've got to remember, these fish are tuned in on exactly what they've been eating since they came in here to spawn. And that is something about that size. You don't want to be a lot bigger. Now, last fall when we finished the season up, I was trolling on Mille Lacs Lake. And the last day I was out trolling, I was trolling big, long stick baits. And I was running a bait that went just like this, and here's why. By fall, the bait in the lake is actually all big. And with that, what you have is you need to run a bait that is the same size, and they're more active because they've been in warm water. This has a tight little wiggle, okay? And it's a lot smaller, so it's emulating the actual bait fish that are in here. One last thing, color. If you notice today, I've switched back and forth between 2 baits. One is the white shad, one's the golden shiner. Both of them are natural colors. You get a day like today where you're in shallow, there's just enough light as the sun's gone in and out of the clouds today to make it so that you really need to use a natural color. Now, if it were dark, and I were out fishing deeper, I'd go to more of my fire tigers and that kind of thing. So keep that in mind. Match the bait size in the lake for the time of year, you'll catch a lot more fish. Right now, it's a Shadling they want. Another good dinner fish. That right there is why you come to Red Lake, and you know, we've caught our share of big fish this year on a couple of these trips. We came here today specifically to catch fish like this for a fish fry this evening, and I'll tell you what, this place never lets you down. But one of the keys to fishing fish in this situation is when you find them, consistently go back and do the same things over and over. What we did today when we figured them out was we kept getting back on that same lip, and we just kept weaving back and forth. And speed was big too. I'm going 2.3 miles an hour right now. It's been between 2.1 and 2.3 all day whenever I got hit. So keep that in mind. When you dial in a crankbait pattern, you got to remember to stay consistent, because you can make a whole pass not touch a fish if you're just 1/10 of a mile an hour off or a foot too deep or too shallow. Keep that in mind, and you'll always catch more fish when you're on a good bite like this. Hey, for more current and up-to-date information, check back with us next week. I'm Jon Thelen. We'll catch you next time.